I know I've been on a little hiatus from Destiny 2, but with Riven's Wishes happening this week, I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to drop another build video. Now I know the artifact has a huge focus around the solar subclass and solar weapons, but it does have 2 stasis perks on there that we definitely want to take advantage of, and I've already made a Warlock build video here on the channel with the Osmiomancy gloves pairing stasis and solar, so I want to do the same thing for you hunters with the Renewal Grasps. Let's not waste any time and dive right into it. So the main exotic gauntlets are going to be the Renewal Grasps for the hunter. It's perk Depths of Dustfield. Your Dustfield grenades have a much larger effect radius. Allies inside the Dustfield take reduced damage, and targets inside the area deal reduced damage. Now the main reason I want to talk about this exotic versus other ones is because previously this exotic got a nerf to it, but with the start of the season they actually unnerfed the exotic. So again, now it's back into its regular form. Now let's go over what I'm using under the Revenant Stasis subclass. So for my abilities, first up here, I'm going with Gambler's Dodge. So when I dodge near a target, I'll be able to get my melee back. For movement, I just like triple jump, but you can use what you like. For the melee, we only have the one melee, which is Withering Blade. Again, you toss a Stasis Shuriken at targets to damage and slow them, and you do get 2 charges with this. Then obviously for the grenade, we're going to be using the Dustfield Grenade because, again, how are we going to take advantage of the exotic gauntlets? For my aspects, first up, I'm using Grim Harvest. So when I defeat a slowed or a frozen target, it'll actually create a stasis shard. And when you pick up these shards, they grant melee energy for you and your allies when you pick them up. The second aspect we're going to be using is Touch of Winter. Now this gives a variety of bonuses to each one of the stasis grenades. For the Dustfield in particular, it increases our slow field size and creates a small stasis crystal on impact. So essentially you kind of get a glacier grenade out of it. It's just the one crystal. You don't get the wall of them obviously, but again, you do get kind of a 2-in-1 here with the slow and the immediate freeze if the stasis crystal procs on a target. For my fragments, first up here I got Whisper of Refraction. So when I defeat slowed and frozen targets, I get my class ability energy back. Next I have Durance. So slow that you apply to targets lasts longer, and for those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. It's a +10 to strength. Next I like Whisper of Shards. This one's pretty important for this build. So shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate, and then when you shatter additional ones, it increases the duration of the benefit. So the stasis crystal that we create from the Dustfield grenade and we pop that, that's going to proc Whisper of Shards, but there's also going to be another way for us to have this proc when we go to talk about the artifact perks. Next, I do like Whisper of Conduction, so those stasis shards track to my position. It's a +10 to resilience and +10 to intellect, so any stasis shards that I create from Grim Harvest, from defeating slowed and frozen targets, automatically track to me, and as you know, we get melee energy back on that. But pairing Whisper of Rhyme with it, so collecting a stasis shard grants a small amount of overshield which falls off after 10 seconds. Collecting additional shards adds to the overshield and refreshes the timer. This is honestly a survivability mechanic. Since there really isn't a way to heal with this build, this is the only way to really do that for better survivability. Now the artifact perks are pretty important here, so I would copy everything that I have here to a T because each one has a function. So first up here, I'm using Flame, Fiber, and Freeze to use the Solar Stasis Siphon combo mod on the helmet, so I can basically create orbs of power with 2 types of weapons, which is going to be really good. Next, definitely put on Flint Striker. So rapid sword weapon, precision hits, and final blows grant Radiant. This is going to be very important for the next pieces here, which is Kindling Trigger. So Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants. So basically every solar weapon that we have can scorch any target as long as we're Radiant. Next, Torch. This one's pretty big. So while you're Radiant, you deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by Strand and Stasis debuffs. And considering we're going to be slowing and freezing everything on the field with this build, as long as we're Radiant, we get free bonus weapon damage just from this. And then obviously Raise Precision. So while you're Radiant, Solar Precision Final Blows cause combatants to ignite. This is honestly just a free AoE bonus from getting a headshot kill while we're Radiant. Now the 2 stasis ones are pretty important. First up being Pillar of Ice. So defeating an encased combatant spawns a stasis crystal. So as long as the target is frozen and you kill them, it'll spawn a stasis crystal, which again, if we break that crystal, we get the faster grenade regen from the fragment, right? Next, Hail the Storm. Shattering encased targets and stasis crystals deals increased damage, so those already break off easier. And then shattering stasis crystals releases shards of ice that damage and slow targets. So that's another slow proc from breaking a stasis crystal. So these 2 combined with the slower ones are very important. Now the last 2, I just recommend everyone put on for every build, which is From Whence You Came, so you get that increased ability damage to Taken and Scorn combatants. And then lastly, Wished into Being. So when your super is nearly fully charged, your ability Final Blows will spawn Orbs of Power. Now let's go over my armor mods, starting with the helmet. Like I said, I am using the Solar Stasis Siphon combo mod here. So my Solar and Stasis Rapid Final Blows will create Orbs of Power. So now I can create Orbs of Power from 2 different types of weapons. And when we get to the weapons, you'll see why I'm using this mod here. But next up, I'm using hands-on, so I gain bonus super energy on melee kills. And then lastly, I just put on powerful friends here. So when I collect an orb of power, you know, I get an armor charge, but that also gives armor charges to my allies if they are nearby. But you can kind of switch this one out for any other one. If you did want to take off hands-on and put, you know, heavy ammo finder and then put on heavy ammo scout on the helmet, again, you could totally do so. On the gauntlets here, I'm rocking double impact induction. So when I cause damage with my melee attack, it reduces my grenade cooldown. Again, that's just damage. I don't even have to get a kill with the melee, and I get my grenade back faster. And then next, heavy-handed. So my powered melee final blows create orbs of power. Note, with heavy-handed, firepower, and the Reaper mod on the class item, they each have a 10-second cooldown between orb generation, but we're going to be using the melee fairly often anyway. We might as well take advantage of it. On the chest piece, you can rock whatever combination of reserve and resistance mods that you like. Again, I have harmonic reserves, which translates to stasis reserves. This only costs 2. For my, you know, stasis weapons, I get more ammo. Same thing with solar reserves, I get more ammo for my solar weapons, and then I just put on an arc resistance. But like I said, you can kind of mess with how you want these. On my boots here, I'm rocking recuperation, so when I pick up an orb of power, it replenishes my health. And again, this is going to be another survivability mechanic, especially in higher activities. You definitely want this mod on here. Then I'm rocking double solar weapon surge, so I gain bonus solar weapon damage as long as I have an armor charge. My armor charge now decays over time. So when you collect an orb of power, you gain an armor charge, and with this build, you can have a maximum of 3 armor charges with these blue mods. It makes your armor charge last 10 seconds. So that means we get 30 seconds of bonus weapon damage with 3 armor charges. And then lastly on the class item, I like Bomber, so it reduces my grenade cooldown when I use my class ability. I also like Powerful Attraction, so automatically collects nearby orbs of power when you activate your class ability. So when I dodge, it collects any orbs of power near me, which gives me armor charges and also procs recuperation on the boots. And then lastly, I like Time Dilation, so your decaying armor charge has a longer duration. So the 10 seconds that I mentioned actually gets bumped up to 15 seconds. So at 3 armor charges, we actually have 45 seconds of that bonus weapon damage. For stats to focus on, we talk about every video, try to have tier 10 100 resilience. It's going to give you a 30% damage reduction. We definitely want to take advantage of that, especially in higher end activities that can pretty much one-shot us. Next up, definitely focus on discipline. Again, discipline is tied to how fast you can get that grenade back, and obviously we want to abuse the dust field grenade as much as possible here with Renewal Grasps. And then next, I would focus on mobility. Now the reason being is because mobility in particular on the hunter is tied to how fast you can get that dodge back. And obviously we want the dodge back with Gambler's Dodge, get our melee back, and obviously a bunch of other things that are tied to it. And that's the reason you don't really need to focus on strength, because if we can just dodge to get the melee back and collect stasis shards to give our melee energy back, again, we really don't need to focus on strength here. So definitely resilience, discipline, and mobility. For your weapon options in the primary slot, I really like conditional finality because of the dual damage type. So it's stasis and solar, right? So the first shot is going to be stasis, the second shot is going to be solar, and if you hit every single pellet with the stasis, it freezes a target, and if you land every single pellet with the solar, it causes an ignition. And if you can kill a target with the shotgun and they freeze, that also procs, guess what? Pillar of Ice. And then with the ignition from the second shot, if you kill multiple targets with that procs Flint Striker, so now you're radiant from this weapon. It's just really good this season with the artifact perks. I highly recommend it. But if you don't have conditional, there are other options. Again, we do have a craftable trace rifle this season. I just haven't upgraded it. The Epitence, again, you get that from Riven. You can also get a Deliverance with Chill Clip. There's also other stasis fusion rifles that you can use here, but I personally like a special weapon, and conditional finality just really fits in with this build. In the energy slot, I would recommend your favorite solar primary weapon. Again, something with incandescent is obviously going to be very good with this build in general. Again, we have Epichal Integration hand cannon, we have Unstop hand cannon, that can work out very well. Again, we have this Abyss Defiant, the Crotazen auto rifle, Enhanced Recon, and Incandescent. We have Overload auto rifle, you can do that as well. Again, Callous Mini Tool, Enhanced Unrelenting, and Incandescent. Callous Mini Tool, obviously a classic. If you want to do double special, I have this Cartesian Coordinate, Lead from Gold, and Vorpal Weapon. And then obviously a case of Dejection here, Enhanced Recon, and Incandescent. If you don't have conditional finality, I would highly recommend Sunshot. With the hand cannon buff last season, it just feels really good. It's really good for ad clear. It hits like a truck because of that hand cannon buff, so Sunshot is a very good option here as well. For your heavy weapon, just use whatever your favorite heavy weapon is. Again, I have this crafted Apex Predator, Recon Bait and Switch. You know, if you want to use more precision, you could do linear fusions with Briar's Contempt or Cataclysmic, or even if you have the Avalanche Machine Gun from the Dawning with Target Lock on it, this thing could be pretty good as well. If, again, you don't want to use an exotic in your kinetic or your energy slot, you could also use Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath just cooks this season. This thing is disgusting in general, especially for, DPS. Thing is nasty, but again, it just goes to show here, you have a variety of options in each weapon slot. Just use whatever you like. Now, if you got through all that and you're still a little confused about how this build works, I'm going to break it down for you, but honestly, all you have to do is just use your abilities and your weapons in tandem, and you can take on just about any activity. Now let's say you're about to go into engagement. What is going to happen? So obviously, if you decide to throw your grenade out there, it gets its bonus with Touch of Winter, so now you have a stasis crystal that spawns in the middle of it. But with the gauntlets, it has a larger radius, and anybody that's inside takes reduced damage, and targets inside deal reduced damage. So anything that's inside is already basically getting nerfed. On top of that, you're slowing the target consistently because of how Dustfield works, and you can eventually freeze them. Now, there's two reasons that's good, because slow stuns overload champions, and breaking the shatter from a frozen target stuns unstoppable champions. So you can take care of two types of champions with just this grenade. And obviously your shurikens come in handy here to slow and freeze targets as well, but the main thing is that Grim Harvest kicks in, so when you defeat any slowed or frozen target, it creates those stasis shards, which automatically track you because of Whisper of Conduction, and give you an overshield because of Whisper of Rhyme. So basically, anytime you use your abilities, you're going to be able to gain an overshield from this as long as you collect those stasis shards. Now, with our other fragments here with Whisper of Refraction, defeating those slowed or frozen targets gives you class ability energy back, so you can get that dodge back. Again, if you're out of melee, you can dodge on your target to get those shurikens back to use again. And as long as you continue to defeat slowed and frozen targets, you can have that class ability back pretty quickly. Again, with Whisper of Durance, any slow that you do will last longer, and those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase, so those things will last longer. And then big thing here is Whisper of Shards. So when you break that initial stasis crystal in the middle of the Dustfield grenade, you're going to proc this, which is going to allow you to have that timer in the bottom left that says, hey, increased ability regeneration for your grenade. And as you recall too, with the artifact with Pillar of Ice, as long as you defeat a frozen combatant, it'll also spawn another stasis crystal, which means you can keep up having that increased ability regeneration. And with Hail of a Storm, the shattering encased targets and those stasis crystals that you shatter deal those increased damage. And every time you break a crystal, it also sends out slow, so now you're slowing those targets that are surrounding the crystals again, which can also proc them to slow and freeze again. And now talking about the solar weapons part of it, with Flint Striker, as long as you get those rapid precision hits and final blows with a solar weapon, you're Radiant, which procs Kindling Trigger, so you can scorch everything on the field no matter what. With Torch, you can deal that increased weapon damage to targets affected by strain and stasis debuffs. Again, it's going to be a lot of stasis debuffs just from you, as long as you're Radiant. So again, you get free increased weapon damage from just being Radiant. And then Raise Precision, as long as you get a precision kill while you're Radiant, that's going to cause an ignition, which again can re-proc Flint Striker. So you can consistently be slowing and freezing everything on the field while also causing a lot of solar damage and staying Radiant. Everything with our mods is honestly just a bonus, with having the Solar Stasis Siphon being one mod on the helmet, being able to take advantage of that, on top of heavy-handed on the gauntlets, you know, increased ability cooldown with impact induction, getting health back with recuperation, and increased weapon damage with solar weapon surge again. So now our solar weapons will have that increased weapon damage. Again, the main thing here is, as long as you're using your abilities and your weapons in tandem, you're going to stay Radiant, you're going to be able to basically abuse your abilities on the battlefield and have really good crowd control here. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my updated Season of the Wish Renewal Grasps build. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Again, I'm actually going to put the dim link for this build in the description right at the top, so if you want to copy everything that I'm using in this build, down to the subclass, the armor mods, even the cosmetics and shaders if you'd like. Again, I always have people ask me questions about shaders and what I'm using on it, so all that will be included in the dim link. Test this build out for yourself and let me know what you think. Is there something that you like using on this build under the subclass, you know, a certain mod, a certain weapon? Again, let me know in the comments. I'm testing stuff out in this game all the time. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, if what you saw is valuable or entertaining to you, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then turn on the bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on any other content here on the channel. If you didn't know, we live stream here on YouTube and then also on Twitch. That link will be in the description. Again, we are mainly going to be playing Destiny 2, Cyberpunk 2077, and other live service games that, you know, I mainly make content around. But if you want to join in on any Destiny 2 activities, again, hop in the chat, say something, we'll figure something out. And if you want to be proactive, join my Discord. Again, that link will be in the description. People are looking to play Destiny 2 together. We're trying to build it up as a little bit of an LFG server, but we're also talking about other games in there as well, on top of pizza tech, anime, and more. Lastly, if you want to support the channel even more so I can continue making this content for you guys, you can look into becoming a member. Now, if you don't know what a membership is, it's essentially like a Twitch subscription, but it's for YouTube. And hilariously enough, my tier 1 on YouTube is actually cheaper than what Twitch is, hilariously enough. But the main benefit with being a YouTube member is that you get early access to every single one of my videos here on the channel, on top of other benefits. So if you would like more information, all you have to do is press the join button next to subscribe, and that'll give you a rundown with all the details you need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.